Now, more of your questions and comments on our social media pages. On Facebook, we've got Ulindi Sichabela asking, what should buyers do if they are given finance by all banks with the same rate? Love this question. This is a good one. So all the 4 banks give you want 500,000 rands, they give you 500,000 rands, and they all give it to you at prime. What should you do?
She is at a very good position. I mean, she's the king or the queen right there, because the important thing is that she can then go in and leverage without having any fear or desperation. Why? Because you've got 4 good banks that are giving you money. So you know that you qualify. So you can then start negotiating bank by bank, saying, this is what I want. Can you reduce? Give me the reason. Again, always ask the banker, tell me the reason why you're giving me this. So sometimes the bank will say, okay, we're giving you 500,000 rand because of the area rating. So now it's not your problem, it's an area rating. So the banks have criteria for areas. So they'll say Sandton, for example, is area A. It means it's good grade A. Rosettenville, grade B. Terfontein, grade C, for example. So then they will say, well, even though your affordability is there, we're going to give you only X amount. And because of the area, we're going to give you this because there's a chance that the property will be vandalized. There's a chance that you might not be able to pay. There's a chance that people might hijack your property. Then you go back and say, but the external factors, how does it affect? And I'm talking from a personal experience. External factors, how does it affect the fact that I am so good on paper? So it's very critical that you know your record and you know how good you are on paper. Because once you know that, you will always be able to negotiate. And if 4 banks are giving you the same, I'll tell you, if you knock on all the 4 banks, one is going to come back with a better interest rate, or even a higher loan to value, if I should put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's such an important one, Eko, that you point out that different banks view different areas in different ways, and their appetite for different areas varies. Sometimes even when you look at the respective complexes, for example, you might find that a particular bank won't go beyond, let's say they give you 100% loan to value, but they're not going to go below prime for a property in a particular complex, and that's because they're already overexposed, so they're also managing their own exposure in a particular property. So having that conversation with the respective banks after they've come back to you, Lindy, becomes so important, because knowing that, let's say, the blue bank is not going to go prime minus on on that particular development, but that the red bank is probably willing to go prime minus, then you start the conversation with the red bank, with them, giving you a better offer, because you already have every other bank giving you the same deal that they effectively giving you. So understanding which one is willing to budge on which issue becomes such a serious thing. I mean, I had an experience, Eko, where there was a property I wanted financed, and I think 3 of the banks came back to me. One of them said they're actually not going to even give a quote because they already have overexposed in that particular complex. They're no longer giving out home loans in that particular complex because they want to manage their own exposure in the complex itself. The other 2 banks came back with, fairly good quotes. And that was for me the first time I had encountered that. I thought, wait, why are there 2 others giving me a quote and the other isn't giving me a quote? And it was only after asking them why they didn't want to give me a quote that I then understood that actually there are other factors beyond me managing my own credit and my own credit score that banks also look in, because the property was great, the area is great, but for them it's just about managing exposure in the complex but also in the area. So understanding those kinds of factors becomes so important, especially as a property investor, because you're going to be knocking on the doors of the various financial institutions on different occasions. And so sometimes even asking the various sort of bankers or consultants that you work with around what their credit team is feeling about, or what their sentiment is about certain areas in that time, because you'll find that the sentiment shifts. Sometimes quarter to quarter it shifts, sometimes it will take 2 quarters, so it's never quite the same. So I think when you have your finger on the pulse in that regard, it certainly does go a long way.